Hey gang, in this session, I am going to be showing you some tips and tricks that will allow you to improve your efficiency and make you a modern power user. As we go through this session, I'll be referring to a document that I've created that will cover all the elements that we're talking about, as well as have some handy links for you to get more information. To access that document, you can just scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or enter the link down below there in any browser. My name is Trevor Beck. I'm a Google Apps for Education certified trainer. I am also recently retired from MacEwan University in Canada, where I was a technology trainer for over 30 years. If you want to reach out and have any questions, you can visit my website down there at trevorbeck.ca. But what I really suggest you do is take a look at the playlist that I've created in my YouTube channel. I have videos in there covering everything from Google to Microsoft to WebEx to Apple, iOS. So lots of great tips and tricks and cool things there for you. So here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to start off by talking about some general tips that we're going to be useful for you in a day-to-day kind of situation. Then we're going to talk about features in the browser. We use that browser every day, but a lot of times people don't realize some of the extra features that are in there that can really make you into a power user. I'll then talk about some other services that you may not be familiar, apps and stuff like that. And finally, we'll talk about some Google apps and again, some features you're probably not aware of there. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to start off with some general tips. First thing, one space after a period, not two. Two spaces come from the days of when we were typing on typewriters. We now use word processors, which are computers that know when they need to put in extra spaces in there. That wasn't available with typing. Second tip, when you send out an email, don't send an email out just to say thanks. As someone that worked and worked with a number of people, in one day I would get 20 or 30 messages and all they would say is thank you. Instead of doing that, when you send out your initial request, put down there in advance thanks. So for example, I might be sending an email to John saying, John, can you do this task for me? In advance, thanks. When John replies, he says the job is done. I don't have to send a thank you back. It keeps his inbox and my inbox less cluttered. Calendar events and meetings should have an informative title, and you can include an emoji on it to help you out. But that informative title is very important to users when you start inviting them to these meetings. Also include information and details inside that description of that event. So think of like a mini agenda. What are the items that we're going to cover? This is going to be important because later on, I'm going to use this information when I decide whether or not to attend your meeting. Don't send an email to ask if someone's available. Just invite them to the calendar event. This is especially important if you're sharing calendar schedules with each other, which happens a lot in a lot of organizations. If you're normally working from 9 to 5, and that's your job, and there's a space open between 10 and 11, I'm going to invite you in because it shows that you're open. And you know what? You can always turn it down. Same thing applies to video calls and for chatting. If it's available and their status shows that they're available, just ring them up. Use documents to gather general information. Quite often, especially in larger groups and stuff, you'll send out a blast email to 100 people going, hey, what do you think of ABC? Or how about we do something like this? I want your feedback. You're going to get 100 emails back and you're going to be doing copying and pasting and all sorts of stuff. Instead, do something simple like create an online document, whether it's a Google document or a Microsoft document, but create this document and then share it with everyone. Instead of my having to deal with those 100 emails, everyone can take all their information and put it into the document. For example, in here, I'm asking people about a retreat. What do you want for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner? Looking for some suggestions. I don't want to read 100 emails, but what happens now is those 100 people will come here, fill out this information, and it's all captured in this one document. Best part, I don't have to do any typing. It's already being collected as people enter their information. Another great advantage of this is that you won't get the duplication. If you send out 100 emails asking what do you want for breakfast, I guarantee you're going to probably get 90 emails coming back saying coffee. Here, coffee is already collected, so no one has to add coffee into the request. We can see what's going on. Use forms to gather data that eventually will be sorted and counted. So quite often, and here I'll give you a case, for instance. So in this document here, what we're going to look at, this is a request for people to ask, what do you want for dinner? Okay, so you've got your appetizer, your main meal, as well as your dessert. So as each person fills this out, we're basically forcing them to make a choice. If I depend on an email, someone might forget to include dessert or might forget to include the starter. Now I have to email them back and saying, hey, well, what is it that you wanted? Here they go in, they fill it out, and because I've made all these choices mandatory, I know I'm going to get an answer for each of these items. When that's done, that information can go into a spreadsheet. So here's data that's been entered, and I can see Jazz, my poodle, wants green salad and wants a steak and wants dessert. And I can see how as people go in there, all that information gets collected. Now, when you're working in spreadsheets, one of the things that's available to you is the ability to use formulas. And formulas are very easy to do. And one of the cool things about formulas is that it allows you to do adding. So take a look here. I see deviled prawns, spicy 2, 1 green salad, 1 octopus. As people enter stuff in, it automatically gets tallied here. So when I get to my deadline, I can just contact the restaurant and say, hey, I'm going to need 2 spicy prawn starters, 1 green salad, 1 octopus. For the main, I'm going to need a steak with mushrooms, steak with Madeira sauce, et cetera, et cetera. Spreadsheets are a great way of forms and spreadsheets are a great way of collecting data and manipulating that data. And if you're not used to using them, you should take a look and explore them. When we talk about any of the information that we deal with, especially if it's information you're going to be sending out to other people, always think about mobile first. And as a designer, this is kind of a mantra that they use. How is this going to look on a mobile device? For example, let's say I do a poster or a document up. First thing is we don't use tables. Tables are very bad on a mobile device. Works great on a laptop or your desktop, but tables is a bunch of scrolling back and forth. It doesn't work well on your mobile device. PDFs. If you've ever had a PDF, you know it fills the screen. You got to zoom in with your fingers to look at it. And then you're basically going back and forth, zooming in and out. There are lots of different ways of putting out information that do not involve or do not need a PDF. For example, right now you're looking at this Google Doc. And if you were to look at this document on a mobile device, you wouldn't have to zoom in or out. In fact, everything wraps from one line to the next to fit your device. Okay, so that is that section. Now we're going to talk about Chrome. The Chrome browser is one of the most popular browsers on the market. However, what's really interesting to note is a lot of the other browsers that are available there basically use Chrome as the engine underneath it. They may apply some different paint on top, but ultimately it's still Chrome underneath. Firefox, Microsoft Edge are both browsers that are basically Chrome browsers. So when we talk about these features should be available to those browsers as well. Okay, let's start with the most common one is what happens when you close tabs and you don't mean to. So I've got a number of tabs up here. If I start closing them like this and close, and I might go, oh, you know what? I didn't mean to close that. I now have to go open it up. And some people will go into their history, but instead you can reopen a closed tab by using Control-Shift-T or Command-Shift-T, depending on whether you're on a Mac or a Windows device. So I'm going to do Command-Shift-T because I'm on my Mac here. And notice the very last document I closed is the one that opens up. I can keep on doing this, and I'll keep going back in time, bringing open all those tabs that we were just working with. You'll notice in this document that I'm working with that I've got these links here. This will give you more information about how to take advantage and do these different things. The next one is probably one of the most important features in the browser that you'll ever use, and that's called profiles. Profiles basically is like having separate browsers for your different accounts. So right now you can see I've got my Jazz account here. Now notice there's Jazz, the icon here, which is in the window for my Google app, But up top here in the browser, if I click on this, I can see there's all these different profiles. These are all different accounts I can log into. I'm going to just log in. Where's my Clark Kent one here? No, Clark's not here. I'm going to have to pull up from somewhere else. But I'm going to pull up Fred here real quickly. And let's no thanks. So here's Fred. Remove all this stuff. Here's Fred. Notice it's a different color. Notice that we've got different kinds of bookmarks in there. So basically, it's like a brand new browser, and it only deals with Fred's stuff. I'm just going to close that. Here, I've got the same browser, or my Jazz browser, different bookmarks, everything. So the nice thing about this is that you can be logged into numerous accounts at the same time. So you'll notice here when I go into my profiles, there's a number of different profiles that I have here. I can open up all of those at any point in time and have them all open and just switching back and forth. Profiles will save you so much time, and I really recommend you look at the video here as well as the documentation here. Searching tabs. If you're like me, you'll have multiple windows open with multiple tabs. At any point in time, I will probably have at least 15 windows, and each of those windows will have probably 10 to 20 or 30 different tabs on them. So it becomes a little difficult trying to find where all the stuff is. If you know the name of it, you can search for the tab. So notice here I've got one called blank document. Off to the right, here's a drop-down arrow. When I click on that, it basically says search the tabs. So these are all the current open tabs. And you'll notice some of them are listed here, and that's great. But if you're like me and you've got 60, 70, 80 tabs on your window, you're not going to know where to go looking for it. So I'm just going to search in blank, and notice what happens. It pulls up that tab. In fact, when I click on it, it takes me to that tab. And it doesn't matter whether it's on a window that's behind or in front, it's going to take me right to that tab. Makes life a lot easier. As someone that has those multiple windows open and tabs playing, it is not uncommon for me to have a video going and my going, where is this? So I'm just going to pull up a video here so we can just get her going. And we'll just wait and skip through the advertising here. And here I'm going to have the sound on, so you know that it's playing. Well, anytime a video is playing on one of your tabs in the browser, up to the left here, or sorry, up to the right, just to the left of my icon is a player. And when I click on it, it's going to show me all the videos that are currently playing. And there's a control here, so I can pause it, and that's it. That video will stop playing, which is great because quite often with those 50 or 60 tabs I have open, there's at least 5 or 10 videos playing at one time. So I can quickly go in and get to or stop that video from playing. The other advantage, oh, let me stop that. I'm going to pull back over to here. The other advantage of this is I can also jump to that tab. Okay, even though it's just a video tab, clicking on it will bring me right to that tab. Again, it doesn't matter what window I'm in or anything like that. This is where that video is going to, or this is where the tab with the video is going to appear. Custom search engines is a great feature for allowing you to quickly search websites that you visit often. I'm just going to show you an example first. So I'm going to bring up over here, I'm going to pull up Clark Kent. So I'm going to bring up a new account. There's my Clark Kent account. And I've got a number of websites that I will search. Now we know up top here that I'm going to go in, and if I want to type in something here like seal, it's going to do a general Google search. However, watch this trick. I'm going to go up in here and put in RTP and hit tab. Now, RTP is a Portuguese news site. I'm going to type in seal. Now, normally I would have to go to the website, click on the search icon, then type in my request, then get my search results. But doing this actually does it all for me. So we'll just give it a second because the website's a little bit slow sometimes, but there we go. So it's gone to the RTP site, it's put in the search request, and there is all my search functions. So how does this happen? Well, I'm going to open up a different site for this. So let me go into my search engine and we'll do Madeira Weekly. So up in the top left-hand corner is the search function. So what I'm going to show you works with any website that has a search function. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to type in seal. And there's my 6 results for seal. Look up in the URL here. You see where it's the URL and it's got S equals seal. Sometimes it'll say Q equals seal, but seal here is my query. I'm just going to copy this and I'm now going to go into the 3 dots here and go into my settings. We're going to find search engine and we're going to go to manage search engines and site search. So here's our default is Google. If I was to type in bing.com, and those are some other ones, but I can add my own different sites searches in here. Take a look at right now. I've got CBC, I've got Amazon Germany, I've got Amazon Canada. I'll come back to that in a second, but let me just add a new one here. So this is going to be Madeira Weekly. So I'm going to type in a label first. So Madeira Weekly, and just so you can see, I'm going to put a little smiley face there. The shortcut is what do I type up in that Omni bar, that search bar, and then hit tab. So I'm going to do Mad Week. I'm going to paste the URL in there. Notice it says here the URL replace the query, which is seal, with %s. So I'm just going to take out the word seal and %s. Let's hit add. And I'm going to open up a new tab, type in Mad Weekly or Mad Week, I said, and then I hit tab. There's my label, search Madeira Weekly with the happy face. And now I'm going to type in seal. And there it is. Really quick and easy. So if you're visiting sites a lot and you want to make sure you get to them, this is a great way of searching without having to go to the site, find the search function, put in your query, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a quick shortcut. If you use Command L or Control L, it'll automatically highlight the text in the Omni bar. So for example, I go like that. For me, it's Command L. Now I'm going to type in that shortcut. In this case, it was Amazon. I think it was amazon.de. Hit enter. So I'm now going to be searching Amazon Germany, and I'm going to hit fan, and there's my fan. I didn't have to go to Amazon. It did that for me. So if you have sites that you're constantly searching, this is a great way to add those things in there. And you can put as many of them in there as you want. Remember, when we were looking at our settings here, there's a whole bunch of different settings, or sorry, search engines I have here, and I can add as many as I want. Some other examples, you can also search Google Drive, Google Sheets, or just the titles within a Google Drive. Those are all search queries. I'll talk a bit more about that a little later, but those are all search queries that you can search. So for example, I believe if I go up here and I type in label drive, nope, let me go back over to Clark here because I'm pretty sure that's where I set it up. Drive, there we go. I'm going to look for Kitty. It's automatically going to Google Drive, pulling up the query, and there's all the files that have Google Drive. And you'll notice there's that search URL. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit, but that's a really handy way because I'm always in Google Drive. I just quickly open a new tab, type in Drive as the keyword, and I'm searching there. I can get rid of Rick there. All right. We're now going to take a look at other services available. This is some cool stuff in here. Google Alerts is a great way to get notified when something's happening about a topic that you're interested in. So I'm going to pull up over here and go and type in alerts.google.com. And it says create an alert about what? Well, I'm going to create an alert about myself. I want to know anytime something pops up for myself. So I would put in my name. Now, here's a quick trick. It shows you down bottom here the stuff that'll pull up. And if you have a phrase, so sometimes you might put a phrase in there, you want to put it in quotation marks to make sure that it's just that phrase. Otherwise, you're going to get all the Trevors and all the Becks that show up in your search results as far as any kind of new stuff. So if it's a name or it's a phrase, you want to put that in quotation marks. But look what happens here. It's going to give me an example. We can see there's some Trevor Becks that have recently shown up. There you can see Michael Richard Beck. That's because right now it treats this as two different queries. Trevor and Beck. So it'll try and find Trevor Beck, but it'll also find all the Trevors and all the Becks. So this is the Michael Mike obituary. I'm going to put it in quotation marks here. And we don't see that anymore. It's all just Trevor Beck. I could even do Trevor Beck, and then I could put in Funchal if I wanted just to do Funchal. Go look at the options here. How often do you want it? You can have it once a day or any time that Google finds these news items. This is the whole part of alerts, is that anytime something shows up in Google land, it's going to send you a message saying, yep, there's a news item or a web page or whatever that it's indexed, that it's found that information. You can do it at most once a day, or as it happens, or once a week, depending on what it is you want. So let's say, for example, you're trying to modify or trying to get notifications about wildfires and stuff. You might want that as it happens. As far as when Trevor Beck posts something, once a week might be enough. You can choose your sources, your language, regions, how many, all that kind of stuff, where to deliver it to. By default, it usually goes to email. When I create that alert, now anytime Trevor Beck and Funchal show up, I will get an email saying, hey, there's been a search result or a news story that's showing up, and here's where it is, and you get a link to that thing. So alerts is a really good tool if you want to stay on top of your business or the company you work for, or family and friends, or whatever you want. Anything that you want to be notified about, you can create an alert in Google Alerts. Programmable search engine. This is awesome. Think about Google when you go in and search for something. The problem is you get all these different websites back. So I'm going to talk about, let me be interested in doing folder sharing. So I'm just going to do folder sharing. And this gives me all sorts of stuff in there. But you know, as a person that does all this stuff, I'm only interested in Google, Microsoft, maybe Apple, that kind of thing. I can create my own search engine and customize it. So let me just give you an example. Here's one that I use for my technology. So I'll just open it up here. Now when I do sharing, or let's do folder sharing, what happens is the only results that come back are from Microsoft and Google and the resources that I have picked. I can even funnel this down and filter it even more and say, I only want Apple stuff. So there's all the different files from Apple support that talk about sharing folders. Maybe I only want Google. There's all my Google stuff. Maybe just Microsoft. So programmable search allows you to go in and customize your own search engine based on all the results that Google gets and collects in the data. Here's another one I've done with Madeira News. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to type in seal again. And I have a number of websites that I have chosen. And I've said, hey, you know, I want to know about it from these. So I got the Portuguese news. I've got Madeira Island news. I've got some other ones. Now you'll notice like Portuguese news is from the mainland. And so sometimes it doesn't apply to us. So I've actually said, you know what, just show me news sources from Madeira, only Madeira. And there we go. I can see something's showing up here 20 hours ago or 3 days ago. There's a sea lion, surprised me. Madeira Web is a website that has lots and lots and lots and stuff. And so I end up getting it cluttered in here. So I actually just do one on its own. And there we can see there is something there. By default, it's shown by date, but you can also go by relevance. Relevance is basically if I have a phrase in there, it'll do that first. However, that ends up being a lot of old data in there. I typically like to sort my stuff by date. Now, once you've set all that up, what's really cool is you can go ahead and start making use of those back up here, Chrome custom search engines. I can do the same thing. I can create a custom search engine using this guy here. I can go in because there's my query, Q equals seal, take that. And now when I type in Mad Week or something else, I'm going to get this search function and I can type directly in it and it's going to bring out this search engine. Where did I go? There we go, programmable search. Okay, and there's a video tutorial there if you want to look at that. Really easy to go through the stuff. I'm going to close some tabs here just to make the screen a little easier to read just for a moment. So there's a website here called What's.new. What's.new basically recognizes something. Google basically said, hey, you know what? There's all these web services or web applications. Rather than going to that web application, what about if we create a shortcut so that you can quickly go to and create something? So here's an example. I want to create a new Google Doc. And if I needed to do that, I would have to open up a tab, go to Google Drive, click on create new item, select my Google Doc, and go ahead and do something different. However, what I'm going to do is something totally different, and you'll see it showing up here in a sec, but I'm going to go and create doc.new. What that does is create a new Google Doc. I can do word.new, and because I have Office 365, which is web-based, when I go and type in that, it automatically, assuming I'm logged in, make it work. Come on, there we go. It automatically goes in to Microsoft 365 and create a Word document. Lots of different cool functions available to you. There we go. Now I'm working in Word. There's my Google Doc. One that I use quite often is Google Meets. So let me go meet.new. And there I am. I didn't have to go to meet.google.com, create a new Meet, join it, et cetera, et cetera. It automatically does all of those steps just by clicking in meet.new. Now, whoops, I closed that window. I'm going to open it up just the way I did. And I'm going to hit back here. So what's available? Well, there's lots of things available. And if you go here to that what's.new, it'll give you some examples here. There's doc sheets and slides, but you can go to all shortcuts and it lists all sorts of great stuff with new stuff being added all the time. There's stuff from Adobe. There's stuff, as I mentioned, Google, Microsoft, editors, all sorts of apps, GitHub. So if you're into any of that stuff, you might find that your app that you're using allows for those quick .new stuff. Saves you so much time if you're doing a lot of that kind of open stuff. QR codes. Oh, QR codes. Love them. QR codes are more than just pointing to a menu. Okay, so you know that you can go in and create a QR code for to link to a PDF, which, as you all know, if you've done it in a restaurant on your phone, is really just this thing you have to zoom in all the time. But if you were to link that to a Google Doc, be much easier to read. Different, that's aside. But what I want to show is what else can you do with a QR code? Now, I personally have a QR code on the back of my phone. If you scan it, it will basically create a contact list on your phone. So you don't have to do anything other than scan my QR code. It fills in first name, last name, my phone number, email, any addresses, notes that I want, my WhatsApp, whatever information I want to add. And then all you have to do is say, yes, add this information as a contact into my address book. So there's no typing involved. QR codes can do all sorts of stuff. We're familiar with website URLs. We can do a plain text, so if we have messages in there. This is one I use a lot, is Wi-Fi login. When people come over to my house, especially if they're Android people, they can't, rather than my trying to give them that long, weird Wi-Fi name and whatever long string of numbers and password I've done, I can enter that in here. So I'm going to enter in, let's say my Wi-Fi is Trev's Wi-Fi, or Trev Wi-Fi, and the password is da 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 da. And I might change it to 2. Guess what? There it is there. When they scan that QR code, it automatically adds them to the Wi-Fi. It logs them in and everything. It may take about 10 seconds, but it will basically go into their Wi-Fi settings, join the proper Wi-Fi, add the password in, and in 10 seconds, they're making use of your Wi-Fi. Very cool. And so there's all sorts of other stuff that you can do there. I really recommend take a look, go through lots of cool ideas. Do a Google search, cool things to do with QR codes, and you will find all sorts of neat things that you can do. Rehearse your slideshow with Speaker Coach. Okay, so this is a function of Microsoft PowerPoint. Now I'm just going to pull it up here. Let's see if I can do PowerPoint.new. I haven't looked at this, so I have no idea if this will work. Well, look at that. I think it will. Okay. And let's go into slideshow, rehearse with coach. All right. So let me start off by saying this function is only available currently for English. Okay. So when you log into your Microsoft account, you need to select English. I'm not sure if it's necessarily available to Portugal or any other countries, or if it's just specific to Canada and US. I suspect not. But you might find when you log in with your school account that it's not there. If that's the case, go to Microsoft, create a new Microsoft account, an email you'll never use, but it gives you access to this tool. What this tool does is basically it sits there and listens to you as you do your presentation. So I'm going to go ahead, pretend I got a bunch of slides there. I'm going to rehearse with the coach, and I have to give it access to this. And I'm going to say start rehearsing. So it's actually going to analyze my presentation. Whoops, there we go. But as it's doing that, it's going to actually tell me some feedback, and it's actually going to show things that I actually shouldn't be doing. And if I find that sometimes it's going to give me notices. If I talk too fast, sometimes it'll show up there and tell you, Trevor, you need to slow down. Your presentation is going way too fast. Just slow it down and let's see what's going to happen. This is great when you're trying to do a presentation and you don't want to do it in front of your parents or your friends or anything like that. This will give you that feedback that you need in live time as you're doing your presentation. When you're done, come on, get out of there. When you're done, there's a whole report here that talks about it. So here we can see my fillers actually, and how my pace of, you can see I went a little fast there for people. What kind of language, what was my language like? Did I use slang? Did I pronunciate my words? Did I mumble? So all this kind of has a report there that it gives you. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than looking in the mirror and just doing it by yourself? By all means it is. So great tool. I've loved using it myself and gives me some feedback. Excellent thing to look at. And again, we talk here about rehearsing your slideshows. And we talk here, there's a sample there that you can look at as well. Google Translate. You're all probably familiar with it on your phones. But one of the nice things about Google Translate is the ability to upload a document. So I'm going to go on, and this only works on a desktop or laptop. So translate.google.com. Now, DeepL will also do this, but I think you only get 5 documents you can upload, and then it locks you out for the day. But notice here, you can put in text, you can put in images, but you can upload documents, and it will read anything that looks like a Microsoft document, or PDF, PowerPoint, or Excel spreadsheet. What it will do is it'll take that document, you upload it, it translates it, and then you download a brand new document that's completely translated. When I first moved here to Madeira, I would upload my documents from the utility company. So I had no idea what it was saying or what I was being charged or anything. But I could upload it and translate it and get a pretty good idea of what was being asked of me and what requirements I needed. So it's a great way of just having a quick glance of documents. And like I said, it's not like the same as when you hold your camera up to it, your phone up to it and have it translated. It actually gives you a document as a PDF that you can then go in and make changes and edits to. And I believe if you upload a Microsoft document, it'll download and convert as a Microsoft document. So that's Google Translate. The last thing I want to show you in this section is Microsoft Translator. This is a really great tool for when you're working with groups of people who all speak different languages. So it starts off with an application on your mobile phone. You need to go and download that, and that's going to be basically your system for adding to start the translations. Now, I've gone in and on my phone, I've already created it. I'm going to go into here and enter the 5-letter code. So it's like whatever the room is to get into this thing. And I'm going to enter Bob here. Actually, I should enter Jazz here. Jazz. Now, Jazz actually speaks French. So I'm going to do French Canadian for the heck of it. And in a second, Jazz is going to join. I'm also going to go over here where I had Clark Kent. And let me just open this up a bit. And I'm going to do the same conversation. This time will be Clark. And Clark speaks Portuguese. And now watch what's happened. We're all going to join the same room. Now, as I start talking, for me, it's in English. I'm talking English, but notice that Jazz on the left is in French and Clark on the right is in Portuguese. This is awesome. Whether you're working with a group online or in person, this is a great lecture tool that you can make use of. Now I have it in what's called lecture mode. I can turn it, make it turn off lecture mode so that anyone can speak. And then these icons here become available. For the moment, I'm just showing this because otherwise I would have some really confusing things going on. But you can see as I'm talking, the translations click in there pretty good. And there's also the English, the original English down below. A wonderful tool. I really recommend you, if you're working in groups online or, that speak different language, this is a great tool to help make things a little easier go along. Just takes a second or two to get it set up. Okay, so that's that section. That's other services. Google Drive. All right. Now we're going to go into the Google tools for a while. So here is Google Drive. Up in the top, you're probably used to going ahead and typing insert. So I'm going to type in Kitty here. I find the challenge that you're going to have is when someone shares a folder with you, they may organize that folder in a different way than you would organize it. So, and you don't have the right to go in and change stuff. So sometimes finding files can be a little bit difficult. I have access to tens of thousands of files, and not always ones that I'm aware of or I'm working on, just I have access to them. So when I need to find something, knowing where it lives is not going to work. That's why Google Drive search function is so incredibly powerful. Notice here I've got the different Kitty in here. I'm going to actually pop over to Clark here for a second and do the same thing here. So there's my drive. There's Kitty. Notice how I've got 3 different files there. If I go up top here to this piece here under the advanced search, I can actually, as I'm typing stuff in, say, hey, you know what? I only want spreadsheets. I could specify a location or a term in the actual file, not the file name. I can, who I've shared it with, follow-ups, date and time. There's all sorts of different ways of filtering down those search results. And this time when I search, I have Kitty demo. So understanding the power of Drive there is, and the search function is great. But once you've done that, take a look up top here. Remember we were talking before the query is Kitty and the type is spreadsheet? Guess what? Sheet, tab, there's sheets. I can type in Kitty. I've just done the same thing using that search engine that we talked about earlier on to quickly get in and just show me spreadsheets. I can do the same thing with docs. DOCS, tab, whoops. Oh, I didn't have doc set up. I can do the same thing. Drive, tap, Kitty. In this case, I get to see all of them. So understanding, again, the power that's available in Google Drive, be able to find these files really quickly will make things so much easier for you. Gmail. Oh, there's so much we can talk about Gmail, but I'm just going to show you a couple or just a couple quick things. So let me pull up Gmail for Jazz. So Jazz got an invitation from me. And when we open it up, we can see that from Trevor, it was sent to Jazz, Barney, and Fred. It said, let's get together, plan our weekend. Jazz, can you set up the meeting? Normally what people will do is they will go and open up the calendar, create that calendar event, and then manually go in and type in the people that they want. So I'm just going to go over to here. I know you can do it a couple different ways. You can click on here and get the calendar, but so people will do like this, put it in there, then they'll put in meet, then who's add guests. Okay, I know Jazz is in there, and who else is in there? I have to go back to my email, and they switch back and forth. Well, guess what? You don't have to do that. Watch this. This is the cool part. I'm in my email here, and I go to the three dots here, and I'm going to create an event. Now, the only thing I'm going to have to do with the event is pick a day and time. But watch what happens. So it's open up in a calendar event. It takes the subject line of my email and makes that the subject line of the meeting. I would just have to change the date and time. Off to the left right here, look, all the different participants have automatically been added in. I can, apparently the way I've got it set up, a Google Meet video call is set up automatically. And then it's just a matter of going in and making whatever changes I want to the email notifications. But hey, here is all the subject, or not the subject. Yeah, here's the subject of the email. The details, the message of the body of the email is all pasted in there. So I can just quickly go in here and cut out what I don't want. But there's what we're going to be talking about. That's just for one email. Very quick, very easy to do. And so you're not going back and forth between your calendars and stuff like that. The other thing I want to talk about is your templates. So I'm going to go here and compose. There's a bunch of icons down at the bottom here. And one of them, if you go down here, is called templates. So I've created a template called Looking for Work. It's a paragraph of stuff that I use maybe quite often as I'm looking for work. It automatically fills in the subject line as well as a blurb, the blurbage here. And I can customize and create whatever I want. So let's go into here and I'll just quickly show you how to do that. So I'm going to have a subject line. Again, let's say I'm going to be sending emails out to a bunch of people, and I'm going to say visit next week. And I use this all the time. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to be coming out to visit next week. Hey, I'll be out next week. Can we meet? Please pick a time. And I go into my options here for where it says templates, and I'm going to say save draft, which is what we've got up top there, as a template. So I'm going to save this as a new template. I'm going to call it visit next week. I'm just going to close this box here. And now when I hit compose, if I know that I'm going to be out someone next week, I want to talk to someone, there is that template. And the nice thing is it'll save you time. It also ensures consistency, that your message is the same every time you send it out. So we're sending this message out. I want to meet with someone. Be nice if I could find a time that we both work at. Well, that's another cool function down here under the options. Set up a time to meet. Now I can just go ahead and create an event, and basically it's basically create a calendar events and puts it in my calendar, sends it to them, and they say yes or no. But what I want to do is give them a chance to pick from different times and stuff. Offer times you're free. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Not today, but I'm going to go tomorrow. Sorry, not today, to Wednesday. And you know what? Let's do, I'm available between 9 o'clock and 12. And I'm going to be available from, let's say, 4 to 6. Whoops. That's always the fun part, is getting it to stop doing that. I'll come back to this in a bit. And I also can pick another day and add more stuff in there. So what's my meeting going to be like? Well, I have 1 hour. Here's the different availabilities. I think I can go into here and change the time. Yep, there's the 6. I can add another date. You know what? Let's add one for Friday. And we've got a 9 o'clock to, let's do a 9 to 12 as well. So there's all the times. I'm going to hit next. And what's the event? What if once they decide to choose it, what's going to happen? So I'm just going to Trevor and Jazz meet. Or Trevor comes to visit, 1 hour. We can throw in a video meet conference if we want, but you know what? I'm going to do this in person. Add location, just say your office. Or I could put the name of the office in there. Add to email. So watch what happens now. Here's the email that the person receives. And there's a bunch of times that are available. They click on this, it automatically adds that date and time to my calendar and to their calendar. Now, this doesn't work when you send out to multiple people. It's only good for a one-on-one, but it stops that back and forth stuff of, are you available on Thursday? How about 2 o'clock? No, how about 3 o'clock? Back and forth. You can just send off some stuff and say, hey, guess what? Here's some times to choose from. And that is the insert the availability. So that's Gmail. Let's go into Google Calendar. Ooh, and there's some cool stuff here you'll see in a sec. So here's some tips. I mentioned this at the very top for email messages, but calendar's the same thing. When you're creating a calendar, make sure that the meeting request or the title makes sense. Don't just put in Google. I used to have people do that all the time. And I'd say, what specifically do you want to talk about? So their subject line would now say, help with Google Meets. And in the description, they would put in a note specifically about what the problem was. I'd like to work on getting my camera hooked up so that I can get some good lighting. With that information, that gives me not only the ability to decide, do I want to take that meeting at that time? Is an hour going to be long enough? But when I come to that meeting, I'm now prepared. I have all the information. We can get stuff done. Nothing is worse than saying Google and no details. Person shows up and then you inform them and they can't do anything because they have to go back and do research. So make sure that you fill out that subject of the calendar and put some details in there. Attach any documents and agendas and stuff that might be in there. And as I mentioned before, make sure you've got a description in those calendar events. So those are just top end tips, but let's talk about appointment schedule. So everyone who has a calendar, it would be nice if we could have a page where people can look at my availability and go, oh yeah, that's great. I'll book a time then. So I'm just for the second here, I'm just going to go in here and put a meeting here and just call this test. Notice this is from 10 to 12. Go to create here. Actually, I've already kind of done that here. Let me just show you. I'm going to do create here. We'll create another one. So I'm going to create an appointment schedule. Now, this isn't available to everyone. You have to have a specific account to do this with. So whether you have it or not, you'll have to check that out. But what happens is, I used to have it, so I'm not sure why it changed. But what happens is now I have a meeting page. And I've gone in and said, hey, you know what? I'm available to meet with people from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That doesn't mean that I can't have a meeting show up there. But with the schedule, what it shows up, and this is a page, switch to active schedule, open the booking page. I have a booking page that I can send to everybody. This is my page. And with it, we can see quickly what's available for times. So by default, we can see that Thursdays and Fridays are all the times that are available. I'm just going to go to next week just so we can see. So next week from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then in the mornings from 7 to 9. Those are all the times available. You send this out to anyone, they can click on this, fill out the information, and it automatically gets added to their calendar, gets added to your calendar. And you don't have to go back and forth with saying, is this time available? Is this good? Is this good? They just go to your booking page and they can go and book that right there. The appointment slot, this link here will take you to more information to explain more about how that works. That's Google Calendar. Excellent. Let's talk about Google Docs for a second. I'm going to go back into Drive here. I'm going to do a quick search for, see if I can find it, 00 _ blank document. Just going to use this here real quick. And I'm going to talk about emailing a document. Actually, I'm going to use this document here. So let's say that I'm working on this document with a number of people. Let's go into Share and see who else is in here. So Trevor, Trevor, my work account, and Trevor at my training account, these guys are all working together on this document. And let's say that this document needs to be done by Friday, so I have to send an email out to all of them. I could go into my email, start drafting it. I'd have to come back, find out who all is on this, especially if you work in large groups, and make sure that they're in that email before I send it off. The other thing I can do if I go under File, and I'm going to go down to Email all the collaborators. These are all the people who have been added to the file and have sharing access to it. I can email the collaborators. There's all the people, put in my subject, put in my message, fire it away. They all automatically get an email. I don't have to go searching and hunting to find out who do I need to send an email to. I just say to all editors, hey guys, this stuff has to be done by Friday, and they get a link back to this document. Google Forms and Sheets. Let me just close these window here and everything to the right for a second. Google Forms and Sheets. These are, as I mentioned before, these are a great way to go in and add that information. Okay. And I think this is the same thing I did at the top. Let me just, yeah, it is. So just again, you use a form that allows you to force people to say, answer this question or choose from this item here. Those are great pieces for collecting data, especially with large groups, because eventually you're going to take that data and you're going to start organizing it in a way that will allow people to do stuff with. So here's an example of something that I've done in spreadsheets. So with the spreadsheets, we can do all sorts of cool things here by organizing and sorting stuff. So this is a report for a theater group. They've got a performance they're putting on, and they have all their props and stagecraft that they have to do stuff with. They might have to buy stuff or build it. And here's the progress or not started progress. When you have this kind of stuff there, I can quickly go in to here, and I can say, hey, what props do I need to build? So these are all the props that need to be built. Excellent. Some have been started, some have not been, some are in progress. I have another report here. What's in progress yet? Actually, more importantly, what hasn't been started yet? All sorts of stuff. Some things I need to build, some things I need to buy, some things I need to pull from the warehouse. Spreadsheets can do a lot more than financial. And when you learn these elements of what you can do, it's really, really, really easy to do this stuff. It looks hard, it's not. And I have some in my YouTube channel. So let me just pull that up real quick. youtube.com/Trevor Beck. If we go into my playlist, and there's a playlist here called Spreadsheet Skills Everyone Should Know. Right there. There's a bunch of videos in here. I'm just going to pause that, but there's a bunch of videos in here, how to properly filter and sort, how to create reports, how to import data from one Google Sheet into another, how to create an easy volunteer assignment sheet. If you're doing stuff for an event and you need to assign volunteers, this is a great piece of information. So there's lots of cool things to go to look at here. I really recommend that you take a look at it, because these are skills that everyone should have. A lot of people are afraid of spreadsheets, but when you see the power of what's available, very, very cool. Last thing we're going to talk about is Google Meets. So I'm going to create a new Meet here. So remember we talked meet.new. Going to open this up. There we go. So there's my face. I'm going to turn on subtitles. So let's say, go away. Let's say that I am having a meeting with a number of different people and everyone is speaking English, but English may not be my primary language. If you pay for a certain level of Google, you will get automatic translations available to you. However, there is a trick. Many of you probably are aware that if you go to a web page in a different language, it'll try and translate it automatically for you. You can do that here with the subtitles. So watch as I right click here, and I'm going to go into translate my pages. I chose French at the time, but you can go here, choose any language you want. So I'll choose another language. You can already see it. It's translating. It takes the page. You'll see the English there appear there for a second. Then it switches to French. I'm going to choose another language. I'm going to choose Portuguese again. Translate it. And as I speak in English, it's going to be translating it into Portuguese. As everyone speaks English in the meeting, it'll switch the subtitles into into whatever language you happen to choose. So this is really great if English is not your first language, or whatever language you're working in is not your first language. You can use the translate function of Chrome to also work on the subtitles of your meeting. Now, having said all that, there's another cool feature I want to show you. It's called Scribble. Let me open up that piece again. Scribble is a add-on that you can see here. And what it does is it acts as a admin person for you, taking notes. So as you remember the translations that we've got going down here, it'll actually copy all those translations into a Google document. So that's great. I have someone now that has actually created a transcript, or basically all the words that people speak go into a document. Keep in mind, it's not 100% accurate, so you might have to go through and edit it, but it will do that. Now, this tool here, and I've got the link here, it's called Scribble, does more than just take notes. So first of all, I'm just going to show you what it would look like. I had a conversation, Jazz and I had a conversation, and I'm just going to scroll down. Here's all the comments. So I spoke, Jazz spoke, I spoke, Jazz spoke, and it's basically kept track pretty accurately what was said. Really easy for us to go ahead and review that. Now, when you install Scribble, which is an extension, and you launch it on your meeting, what it's going to do is it's actually going to, after your meeting, not only take the text, which is here, but it's going to take that information, send it over to ChatGPT, and it's going to give you some stuff back. So during this whole conversation here, it said, hey, you know what? I did a review. Here's basically how I'm going to break it down. You had a conversation about agenda review. Then you talked about fundraising ideas. And then you talked about entertainment for the retreat. And when I click on this item, it drops you right into that section where we spoke of it. And when I open this up, it actually gives me point notes of what it figured out was being discussed. So here's the fundraising ideas. It saw that we talked about proposed fundraising ideas, how to plan to have someone do a bottle collection, and how to do fundraising. So it automatically is taking these point form notes. Now you can copy these notes into your own minutes that you do, but it's just a quick way to go through and have those created for you. It also has action items. It looks at your stuff and says, hey, what was promised? Who said who was going to do what? So we can see here, someone was going to review the collection process. Someone's going to pick up pizzas. Someone's going to entertain Michael Bublé because he's coming for our entertainment. And that's all in there. All that information for you is free. Now, you only get 14 of those a month, okay? As a free service, here, actually 15. As a free service, you get 15 of these a month, which for a lot of people would be enough. And you can manually turn these meetings on and off, or this function on and off. So if you're just having a general video call with buddies, you wouldn't turn it on. But if you're having a proper meeting where you want to take notes, you would turn it on. And you can do that through Scribble. Cost isn't that much. I think it's like $10 American a month. So if you have a lot of meetings, this is a great way to offset and make yourself more efficient and take for the note taking. That's pretty much it. In this document that I've got some other links here under additional resources. So my spreadsheet skills, Google Workspace for nonprofits. If you have a nonprofit, I do a lot of work with nonprofits back home. And so I'm doing that here in Portugal. So if you have any questions, you can go and look at that video and then follow up and contact me later on. Google Chrome Unleash Your Power Browser is a 1 hour video that I go deeper into Google Chrome. We just talked a little bit of stuff. And finally, my learning stuff with Trevor Beck is all my technology videos from my YouTube playlist. So that's it. If you have any questions, like I said, you can reach out to me, contact me through the video here, or go to my website and contact me there. And I hope that you learned something.